Memphis Grizzlies will be a top 3 seed in the Western Conference next year and are a dark horse to make it to the finals. Let's talk about it. I think when Ja Morant comes back next season, we're going to see that he's still the player he was and that this Memphis Grizzlies team is loaded, stacked, and can compete with any team in the Western Conference and in the Eastern Conference. The Grizzlies are a team I think everyone kind of forgot about. Ja Morant is a top 5 point guard in the NBA when he's playing. Now, obviously, he's been dealing with the suspension stuff, and when he got back from the suspension, he got hurt and had surgery and was out for the year. But Ja Morant, at his peak, is a top dude in the NBA, and I think people kind of forgot about that. The way people talk about Anthony Edwards now is kind of the narrative that was around Ja Morant. When this team's healthy, they've shown they're a top seed. They can win big games. We saw it in the play-in tournament against the Warriors a couple years ago. We've seen them win some playoff games. Like, the Memphis Grizzlies are a really good team. Last season, they made a huge trade to get Marcus Smart on the team. And on paper, I loved it. But we didn't really get to see it this year because Ja Morant wasn't playing. Jaren Jackson was hurt. We're going to see Marcus Smart in that starting lineup with Morant, with Bane, with Jaren Jackson Jr., with Zach Edey, their draft pick. Marcus Smart is still that defensive player of the year he was a couple years ago. Marcus Smart is still one of the best, hustle guys in the NBA, and he will be super impactful when trying to win big games. They pretty much replaced Dillon Brooks for Marcus Smart, and Marcus Smart does everything Dillon Brooks does, but significantly better. I'm considering additions they made last year as their additions this year, because we're going to see the full team next year, and we're really going to see, are the Memphis Grizzlies really that team? And I think they are. I'm not the biggest fan of drafting Zach Edey for most teams, but the Memphis Grizzlies make the most sense, right? Zach Edey is kind of advertised as an NBA-ready prospect. He's the guy you can feed into the post, and he's going to get buckets, right? He's an older prospect. He can rebound. He can, block shots. And putting him next to a Jaren Jackson Jr., who is also a defensive player of the year, who can space the floor, is a match made in heaven. And you could see a world where the Memphis Grizzlies are a top team because of this. I also like how this season you kind of had that building year. And what I mean by that is you had your star players miss a lot of time. Which this allows is your lower players to get bigger shine, get more experience, and when you get your guys back, they're better for it. You found some diamonds in the rough. You found Vince Williams Jr., who's going to play a big role on the Grizzlies next year, right? This guy would not have played probably if Ja Morant was there last season, but we see he's a great defender. He can shoot. He can score. Vince Williams is going to be an impactful player for them. We saw guys like G.G. Jackson, who they drafted last year, probably wouldn't have got much run if they were trying to win, but they weren't. They were trying to lose. G.G. Jackson shined, and he's going to be a big piece off their bench. Other guys like Jake LaRavia showed stuff that he hasn't really shown in his career. Another guy who could get big minutes. The Memphis Grizzlies found some things out last year. When you're a team like that who's usually good and you lose your guys, it can sometimes be a blessing in disguise. And I think that's what it was for the Memphis Grizzlies. So my original take was they're going to be a top 3 seed. So let's talk about, what teams are going to be up there with them. Because, obviously I think the Grizzlies are going to be in there. So what are the other 2 teams? I personally believe the OKC Thunder are going to be up there. Kind of an obvious choice. They've gotten better, adding guys like Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. We'll touch on that more in another video, but they're going to be there. I also think the Minnesota Timberwolves have shown that they're a top 3 seed. So I think it's going to be Thunder, Timberwolves, and the Memphis Grizzlies. I personally think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be better in the regular season than teams like the Nuggets, than teams like the Suns, than teams like the Kings and the Warriors and the Lakers and the Pelicans and, Clippers, whoever you want to throw up there. I think the Grizzlies are better than them. I think they have the experience now. They have the youth. They have the role players. They have the star play. They have the defenders. They have the coach. They're the total package to me. When I say they're a dark horse to make the finals, I think that's very probable for the fact that the Western Conference is completely wide open. There's no super teams. There's no 73-9 Warriors. There's no, Rockets with Harden. There's not even the Cavs with LeBron. There's not a big team where it's they're going to the finals like we've seen in years past. The Western Conference is wide open, so I see no reason why the Grizzlies can't be there. Now, can they win the finals? It depends who they're facing. I wouldn't take them against the Celtics, but I think they could compete with teams like the Bucks, compete with teams like the 76ers, and compete with teams like the Knicks. And I think they could compete with the Celtics, wouldn't pick them. but I think they have a higher chance of beating any of those other teams. Overall, I think the Grizzlies are going to shock a lot of people next year. They're going to be a top team, and don't be surprised if we look at that finals matchup and the Grizzlies are on it. Okay, guys, it's time to let me know. Do you agree with me about the Memphis Grizzlies? Do you think they're going to be a top 3 seed? Or do you think they're going to be in like the play-in conversation or maybe the middle of the conference? I don't know. Let me know.